All right, Nuggets fans, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnLine. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network. And I am here. I am excited. Christmas Eve to everybody who celebrates. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you have the time, would appreciate hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button. And if you have the time as well, leave a nice little review on Apple Podcasts, as that helps to spread the show as well. Got a really strong rating on there, and would love to keep that. It really helps. All the ratings, and whenever I feel bad, or whenever I'm like not necessarily thinking, okay, you're not doing a good job, I go and look at those ratings. You guys are so kind for the most part over there, and just it's always nice to know that the work is appreciated, and always nice to know that we got a fan in the building. Michael Porter Jr. Yeah, let's go. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to Michael Porter for last night. I'll be talking about that interaction in the third segment and just how I appreciated his entire approach to the thing, and it'll try to make me better. I think that's my goal in all of this. We'll talk about that. We will talk about the Nuggets last night dominating the Phoenix Suns, and just a lot of things. Like Jalen Pickett. Oh wait, I've got the. I forgot, folks. I have the wrong background up. I have the background from last night, so bear with me just a second. Let me just upload this real quick. That's my fault. There we go. There we go. Nuggets dominate the Suns on a back-to-back. Jokic ridiculous. The defense is great. Jalen Pickett getting a chance and taking advantage of it. And then Michael Porter Jr.'s bounce back. We'll get to it all. It'll be good. Really appreciate everybody for stopping by. Really quickly, this podcast is brought to you by the good folks over at BetOnLine. They continue to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. Large selection of odds, large selection of props. If you're interested in that, make sure to check it out. Football, NBA, college basketball, and more. Head on over to BetOnline today and use their promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Let them know that you came from us. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, let's talk about last night's game. We're going to do the first two segments will be on the game. I think first one, we got to start with Jokic and MPJ specifically. Jokic was ridiculous in this game. Just absolutely dominant. And I could not believe some of the shots that he was making. Just making Jusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee about as aggravated as you could possibly be at the center position. Just running a whole bunch of cuts, using a whole bunch of fakes, tough jumpers, running off of screens. Like there was one play where Jokic just faking one way, faking the other way, faking one way, faking the other way. Okay, now I'm going to go off the baseline screen, a floppy action out to the corner, catch the ball, spot up for three, nothing but the bottom. Like, who does that? I know the answer. There's two guys in the NBA that can do it at that size. It is Jokic and it's Karl Anthony Towns. Those are the only two that make it happen. And I was thinking about this last game, put him in the three-point contest. Absolutely. The dude is shooting over 50% at this point. Chris Marlowe's got a point whenever he brings that up on the broadcast. Put him in the three-point contest. He's going to be there anyway. He never really participates in any of the other things. Like if it was the skills competition, he's done that once. He's not going to be in the dunk contest. So might as well put him in the three-point contest. Let's see what happens. They often default in those situations to the guys that are already there for the other, for the All-Star game, and just so the guys don't have to screw up their vacation time in order to actually fly out. He's going to be there. Might as well ask. I don't know if he would do it, but if he does, that'll be hilarious. That would be a who wants to come in second kind of moment. That'd be pretty cool if he can get around to the different spots on the court. Yeah, just really impressive stuff from him. 32 points last night. Only 2 rebounds was a very weird kind of quirk about what happened last night, but it's not like the Nuggets were getting dominated on the offensive glass or anything. Nurkic had a couple offensive rebounds. KD had a couple offensive rebounds. Royce O'Neal had one. Mason Plumlee had a few, but like he's hustling for them. Jokic just 2 rebounds. Christian Brown got involved on the glass. Michael Porter. There just weren't a lot of offensive rebounds to be had, I guess. I'm just kind of looking at it here. Denver's ratios were pretty good. It wasn't like they were giving up a whole heck of a lot. Michael Porter Jr., the star of the show at this point. 24 points on 10 of 12 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. The only 2 shots that he missed were threes. 6 rebounds, 4 assists, led the team in plus minus at plus 22 in 30 minutes last night. Just a tremendous game from Porter. He had it going early too. You could tell. And if you guys listened to the show on yesterday morning, you'll know that I absolutely predicted this. Like Michael Porter, whenever it's the second night of a back-to-back, he shows out in those moments. He absolutely does. And it's nice to have that from him consistently. 82 games, you know you're going to get the same approach. You know he's, especially on the second night of a back-to-back, that's going to stand out more than anything else. He always keeps himself ready, and I really appreciate that for sure. 10 of 12 from the field, efficient. He was aggressive. The jumper had it going last night for sure, and that was able to kind of leverage into. I think he had multiple and ones. He had 2 free throws, but had multiple and ones with that around the rim. Just reading the floor really well and understanding, hey, I've got an advantage here. Tyus Jones, Bradley Beal, Royce O'Neal, these guys are so short. They cannot guard me. Kevin Durant was on Aaron Gordon for much of the night. Jusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee were on Nikola Jokic for much of the night. So the matchups that Porter had were pretty good. There were times where Ryan Dunn was on him, but like, even still, Ryan Dunn's only 6'6". When Michael Porter, like, that is the opportunity there for the size to really show through, where he can get to his spot on the floor, rise up, and nobody can contest him. Nobody can do it. So just really impressive stuff from him. And again, the approach is just really, really impressive in these moments where Denver wasn't good in the New Orleans game. I think he was a part of that. I don't think he had the best approach in that game. And like sometimes that manifests in different ways. And I think between that one and the Portland game right before it, he needed a little bit of a bounce back. He needed an opportunity to show out a little bit. And lo and behold, Jamal Murray had a sprained ankle. I actually don't know where he sprained his ankle in the New Orleans game, but apparently that prevented him from playing. And Michael Porter, now they talked about postgame how he steps up and his mentality changes a little bit. He goes from the third option to the second option, and it really is a difference. Like it's hard not to see it. Now, I'm not sure if that's Murray's fault specifically. I'm not sure if that's anybody's fault specifically. I mean, Murray's the guy who gets paid $50 million a year, and he's obviously going to be featured in a lot of these. But in general, like Porter, his aggressiveness does change. He goes to the ball a little bit more. He's a little bit more willing in general to take some aggressive shots in those moments. And when he's got it locked in, it looks really good. So I give him credit, man. Like through the midst of all this, he absolutely shined through. And all you want to do is see somebody not bounce back, because he's a professional. This is nothing to him in general, but just seeing somebody kind of put aside some of the other stuff and get a win for the team and do it through your own individual efforts, but also his team efforts, because he had some really great defense too. I don't want to glaze him the entire time just because he called me out in the presser a little bit, but he did really well on both ends of the floor. Jokic's effort on defense was a lot better in this game. I thought the team's overall approach was a lot better in this game. I will say they got bailed out a couple times with some of the shots that the Suns were missing. There were some open shots that they absolutely just bricked throughout the second half, especially. That's how it happens, though. Like, you can't defend perfect. Like, sometimes you'll defend perfectly and you give up 50 points and a half. The Nuggets did not defend perfectly in this game, but they gave up 90 total. 28 points in the third quarter, 11 in the fourth quarter. The Suns couldn't buy a bucket in the fourth. And Denver's defense certainly helped with that. It wasn't the be all end all, but it was really good. And whenever you give up only 90 points, you have to be credited. Denver's defense overall was very good. Russell Westbrook stood out in that regard. Aaron Gordon, a thankless job having to guard Kevin Durant. And KD got his own. He got 23 points on 15 shots, still made some very difficult plays, and but he only had 2 assists to 3 turnovers, and Bradley Beal had 2 assists. Tyus Jones had 2 assists. Jusuf Nurkic and Royce O'Neal each had 4. But to me, that shows where Denver's defense really helped things, is because usually where your assists are coming are from your main primary playmakers, your Tyus Joneses, your Kevin Durant's, your Bradley Beals. The fact that each of them only had 2, I think, showcased that Denver did do some things to kind of disrupt the flow of what the Suns were trying to accomplish. And part of that was because of the way that they were rotating and forcing the Suns into these longer possessions where Jokic would hedge out. They might find an opportunity to get Jusuf Nurkic the ball or Mason Plumlee the ball, but each of those guys really didn't do anything at the rim. Like 1 of 3 from the field for Jusuf Nurkic. His only made shot was a 3. And Mason Plumlee, 1 of 3 from the field as well. He went 4 of 4 from the line. Shout out to Mason Plumlee for going 4 of 4 of the line, going lefty. He's back to his lefty shooting form after struggling a little bit. But he did make that transition last year, I think. But like Denver didn't allow shots at the rim a whole bunch last night. It was mostly jumpers. It was like, I'm just looking at the shot chart right now. I think they had 4 makes in the restricted area. That's incredible. Like, that says a lot to me about just in general, like Denver's hustle, their willingness to rotate, how much they cared. And like, I know the Suns are not going to be attacking the rim the entire time, especially without Booker. You don't have as much like driving capability for the team. But in general, Denver just showed up on that defensive end. And so much about the defense is just showing up and showing that you care. When we come back, we're going to talk about the bench. We're going to talk about Jalen Pickett. We'll talk about any of the starters that I missed in that particular conversation. Should be a good convo. And then again, I know for a lot of you, you're probably waiting for me to talk about the Michael Porter presser. I will get to it in the third segment. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. Back at it, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate the love and support on the podcast. Love this comment here from DJM. Love Ryan, but maybe we could trade him for Adam and D-Line. Bro, I understand. I get it. I totally get it. It's and that is unfortunately the thing about trade rumors is that like you have to talk about it. And okay, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that in the third segment. All right, bench time. Let's talk about Jalen Pickett, man. You want to talk about a guy who absolutely deserves just something good happening for them. Jalen Pickett in the Atlanta game, second night of a back-to-back then. Jamal Murray did not play then. He steps up. He runs the bench. He does a really good job. He sets the table for everybody. Even makes a couple jumpers. Like, looks pretty good. 5 points, 5 assists. Yeah, he blew that out of the water this time around. In 23 minutes last night, 11 points. Did have 11 shots, but I'll get to that in a second. I don't think that was that bad. The shooting efficiency, it doesn't reflect exactly what happened. 8 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 block. A block on Mason Plumlee. One of Mason Plumlee's only misses on the game was him getting stonewalled by the Pickett line. Jalen Pickett standing him up at the rim in the first quarter. That was a big one. That was where you kind of knew things were going to go well for him tonight. And he was a plus 17 in 23 minutes. Like, the impact was there. The team, they played well with him on the floor. And so much and so often with Denver's bench, you're just looking, you're grasping for straws. You're trying to find lineups where, okay, you know that the starters worked, but how is the bench going to do? How are they going to look? And DeAndre Jordan in his 14 minutes, it was a +8. So the Nuggets were +8 in like the main non-Jokic minutes on the game. And then Zeke Naji came in and Denver ultimately went to different lineups in garbage time, but that's garbage time. Who cares? And so I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the way that Denver's bench kind of shows up. And I'm just very impressed by the turnaround over the course of these last couple of weeks that the bench has had. And it's centered around DeAndre Jordan for the most part. And Michael Malone talked about this. I don't know if it was pregame or postgame, but pardon me for not getting that right. But he was talking about how, okay, not really going to a bunch of different centers right now. It's not going to be, could it be Dario? Could it be DJ? Could it be Zeke? Like, it's just DJ right now. And I think that consistency, that willingness to pick an option has really helped the rest of the guys. They know what to expect with DJ. Sometimes you don't really know what to expect with DJ, with Dario. Those guys still trying to find their place within what the Nuggets are doing. Zeke's been trying to find it for a while. Dario, of course, he's got an excuse because he had a poor first 5 games and is still trying to recover from that, I feel. And now we're in game 27. Also, he's recovering from a sprained ankle, so he's not actually out there right now. But DJ, I just got to give him a massive shout out. Everybody knows what he wants to do when he's out there on the floor. And I think that helps guys like Jalen Pickett. That helps guys like Hunter Tyson, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, the other young guys that were all out there. It was crazy. Denver played Pickett, Strawther, and Tyson last night. And I noted it on Twitter. And there were a couple of people who were like, and they were good. I was like, yeah, but like, it's the 2023 draft class. Like, these are all guys that Calvin Booth drafted, expected to kind of play a role. It's taken a little bit longer, I have to imagine, than he expected, than he would want. And Michael Malone talked about this too last night, that somebody like Jalen Pickett never really got a fair shake last year, never really got a fair opportunity. Now, the obvious is that he controls the minutes, he controls the decisions there, but he also said that Jalen Pickett looked like a different player. And when you have confidence, when you have a little bit of experience under your belt, it makes it look a little different, makes it feel a little different. And just really impressed by the way that Pickett has sort of recovered his mentality. It looked like he was dead in the water for a while. Like, rookie season, like he had a pretty solid summer league, I'll say. And then immediately you get to Denver and training camp, preseason, you start to get these senses that he's not really doing well, that he's not really responding well to Denver's environment, and never really gets an opportunity during the regular season. Colin Gillespie, 2-way contract, plays over him. This summer league obviously has a horrible summer league. Clearly that was bad. About as poorly, it went about as, like, I've heard from some folks, it went about as poorly as they possibly expected. And then he comes in and has to recover from that. And it's taken him a while to recover from that. And even Trey Alexander was playing over him. And I think that was a very clear statement from Michael Malone that, hey, you're not ready. Like, you are not ready right now. And to Pickett's credit, he went down to the G League, balled out in the G League, of course. The numbers that he puts down there are incredible. He hit a game-winning shot in the corner in the G League in one of his games, and I didn't think too much of it then. And then I see last night he's making a turnaround 3 in the deep corner right at the end of the game, and I'm thinking, man, maybe Jalen Pickett's got something for this team. Maybe he's got something that they can count on. Maybe not now, but like in the future, in the near future. So I've seen enough, which is crazy to say. I've seen enough in these last couple of games that he's played that I'm willing to wait to see more. I don't necessarily want Denver to just go find a third point guard, go find a third guy, go find somebody that can play immediately. He's probably not going to be ready for the playoffs or anything like that. But hey, maybe just takes a little bit of time. Maybe just takes a little bit of time to figure it out. And I'm willing to wait that out and see what happens. As long as the Nuggets are on the same page, particularly Malone and Booth, about what that role should look like, how he should be playing, I think that there's an opportunity for Pickett in Denver. Now, is it a choice they have to make them between Jalen Pickett and Trey Alexander? I don't know. Maybe that's not something to worry about. But just in terms of like for Pickett's career, I was thinking initially if he's not going to get a fair shake in Denver, then they should cut him loose for the good of his career because I didn't think that he was going to get a fair shake here. And maybe he still doesn't because Denver's got Murray and Westbrook, and it's really hard to play three guards like that, 3-point guards. But who knows? Maybe Michael Malone can find some time. Maybe this is a good opportunity for Russell Westbrook to occasionally get some rest or for Murray to continue to stay healthy. You want to make sure that Murray stays healthy throughout his season and is ready for the playoffs. That's the most important thing for the Nuggets this year. They need Murray to be ready to go, and they can't feel like they have to play him all the time. I think games like this prove that Denver can play without Murray and still be successful. Because, hey, Michael Porter steps up as a second option. Russell Westbrook can be the facilitating point guard. And who knows? Maybe Jalen Pickett can step up and be pretty solid. Now, this wasn't the strongest competition. The Suns, without Devin Booker, is a little bit shaky, especially with where they're at now. And yet there's a lot of teams like this. You're not always going to be facing Boston or Cleveland or OKC or these teams. There are certain matchups where you can get away with this pretty consistently. So as long as Pickett continues to deliver, I would like to see him continue to play. Couple other notes on the bench. Julian Strawther hit 3 threes. I believe they were all in the fourth quarter. I might be wrong about that, but oh no, there was one in the third that he had off of a kick out from Jokic. I have no idea how Jokic didn't turn the ball over on that play, by the way. Blind pass effectively, like Julian Strawther's man doubles off of him, and I thought was going to rip Jokic to shreds off the backside there. Jokic avoids that, passes it to Julian Strawther, who calmly knocks down the three. He was shot ready for sure. And then he had a couple in the fourth. +7 again for Julian Strawther. I'd like to see him continue to be a positive. That's the most important thing for him. Be positive in your minutes. Find ways to impact the game and make it a positive thing for everybody. There's a lot of good experiences there. There's a lot of good stuff there for him. And then Hunter Tyson running the length of the floor. This was one of the plays of the game for me. Fourth quarter, Denver, they are clearly dominating. This is a part of the process of a blowout, which obviously Denver hasn't had a lot of experience with this year. But Denver gets a stop. Hunter Tyson saves the ball in front of the Phoenix Suns bench and then sprints the length of the floor. Pickett sets him up. He rewards him. That's a great point guard decision, by the way. Sets him up and rewards him for a dunk down the middle of the lane. Budenholzer's just disgusted and calls timeout at that point. Hunter Tyson, just got the entire bench up and got them going. Really exciting stuff. By the way, PJ Hall, primal scream from the bench when he saw Hunter get up for that. So really good stuff from him and really good stuff from the Nuggets as a team. Christian Brown, I don't think played that well. I think Peyton Watson was a little bit shaky, but he was still a +14 in 21 minutes. I think that pretty much everybody played well. And that's rare. Second night of a back-to-back. But that's just kind of Denver's mentality, right? 5-0 in these moments. They found ways to be successful. They are 3-6 when they have 2 or more days of rest. I don't know how to parse that. I just don't. 5-0 when you have no rest. 3-6 when you have all the rest in the world to get ready. So who knows? Maybe this is just what Denver should do. 82 games in 82 days. I'm with it. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Michael Porter Jr.'s presser, his response to me, and just kind of my thoughts on the situation. We will be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, back at it. Main event here, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate the love and support. Mike, if you're in the comments, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, man. Would really appreciate it. let's get the Curious Mike collab going. That's obviously not going to happen for anybody that's like serious about this. It would be cool, but I can't imagine that he would want to do that. Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about the Michael Porter presser last night. I also asked before that, by the way, to Michael Malone pregame, when you have trade rumors like this, how do you keep the team together? How do you keep everybody motivated? And he was very honest in that. He said that he didn't think that there was any truth to the trade rumors that were out there, didn't know how they got out there, but also just said that he, and Calvin especially, they make it clear. They make it known that if something is actually happening, that they'll go to that player, they'll go to their agents, and they will make sure to keep them appraised of the situation and not like blindside them. And Calvin, from what he said, or not what he said, but from what Mike said about it, from what Malone said about it, that's clearly nothing's happening. Nothing's imminent. This isn't a situation where, hey, that got out there and they're now going to do a deal. This is something that the Nuggets clearly explored. This was also something that happened, by the way. I know that they have an obligation, specifically Malone has an obligation to say that it didn't happen. If it got out there, it's probably not because everybody was lying about it. Like I respect Sam Amick. I respect Tony Jones. I believe that Denver was talking. I just flat out believe it. Now, how they respond to that and how Mike responds to that is a difference. Like there's so many different ways that it can go. And this was the first opportunity that the Nuggets were at home. So that's why I asked the question to Michael Porter. I've been talking about this as, hey, this is a possibility. This could absolutely happen. I've been talking about it because it is important. It's when you have an opportunity, not an opportunity, but when there is a possibility that the core of a championship team gets broken up, you have to discuss it. It's a requirement. And if it's for a guy like Zach LaVine and that name gets put out there, you have to have an opinion. And I haven't been shy about my opinion on the situation. I don't know if I necessarily still believe it, but part of the reason why I was even discussing it was because Denver was really struggling. They can't survive the non-Jokic minutes. But what if they could? And I think these last couple of weeks have proven that they can survive the non-Jokic minutes at times. It's just they weren't doing it before. They had to figure some stuff out. So I asked Michael Porter last night about the trade rumors, and he was like, hey, you watched the show, huh? I watched your show. And first of all, thanks, Mike. Loyal listener. I appreciate it. Obviously, these guys are just sent clips. They're sent sound bites. A lot of it is motivating stuff. Or stuff from the camp, and they're also interested. And Mike's online. He understands this. He understands the game, and I think, and I just appreciate his ability to, one, kind of compartmentalize that and still find a way to be successful on the court through all the stuff that he's gone through. But two, I just really, really appreciate the professionalism that he has. Like, we can joke. We can joke about it, and he joked about it, and he said it in no uncertain terms that he knows where I stood on that, and it's like, okay, I know what you're about on this, and look, it's not going to change what I've said. It's not going to change my opinions entirely, but it's not like I want it to happen, and I tried to explain that last night as well. Nobody wants, like, this is a player, this is a person, this is a human being. Like, trading people in general is crazy. It's a crazy part of the business, but in the end of the day, it is a business. And yet Porter, he still gave what I thought was an extremely insightful answer through all of that. And I'm gonna try to find it on my feed really quick. I should have pulled this up prior to, but let me just let me get it from Vinny Benedetto, who transcribed the answer. Michael Porter said, quote, "It's part of the game. I don't get like frustrated or I don't take it personally. I know it's part of the business. I feel like there's a lot of good players in the NBA and I've been blessed to be here for 7 years. The Nuggets took a chance on me. I've been blessed to win a championship year, and I've been blessed to develop some great relationships with the coaches and the players and grown as a player. When stuff like this comes up, I don't take it personally. You have those moments where you're like, man, I want to be here or whatever. The thoughts that go through your head. But I think for me, I've overcome so much in my life. I've gone through so much with my family. I've gone through so much personally that little stuff like a trade rumor, I kind of leave that stuff up to God. I kind of have zero stress about it because I know wherever I end up, it will be meant to be. I love where I'm at and I love playing with these dudes. I think we have a chance to get rolling and do something special. But to answer your question, it's not stressful to me. And what I appreciate about that, first of all, it's a very insightful answer and like a very emotional answer. But he could have blown up my spot. He absolutely could have been like, I am not answering a question from you. I don't feel like it. You tried to get me traded. You're wanting me to get traded. He absolutely could have done that. And I wouldn't have blamed him because anybody in that situation could have absolutely done the same thing. But I just appreciate Mike for just treating me like a human being. And it makes me want to rethink it, of course, because there are others, and I think many know who I'm talking about, that would have absolutely blown me up and been like, not answering that, or they're just going back at me and making it about that interaction. But Mike continues to show that he's a professional. He continues to show that he's consistent with all of this, both on and off the court. He has never given me anything other than a great answer to my questions. And it makes me want to continue to ask him not just the easy questions, but the hard questions too, because that's what you want from these players. You want from guys to show emotion. You want the insights. You want the actual stuff, like the fun stuff that nobody ever really delivers in the NBA. Everybody's coached so strictly on their media coaching where, like, yeah, Mike probably says a little bit more than he should every now and then. Absolutely. But in general, like, I'm just very impressed with the way that he comports himself, has handled himself through all of this. The reason why I talk about it is because Jokic is not going anywhere. Gordon's not going anywhere. Murray's not going anywhere. The last two are mostly like they're for contractual reasons, but also just a part of the Nuggets identity. Porter is a part of the Nuggets identity too. He's a part of their core. He is a piece of that core. There are times where he is not as involved. He is a little bit more of a peripheral piece in general. And for that reason, you want somebody who consistently stays involved. If the Nuggets can do right by him and continue to keep him involved, and Michael Porter continues to keep himself involved in these games, especially late in games when the Nuggets decide, hey, we want to go to the two-man game, Jokic Murray two-man game, Denver's got to avoid that at times because there is a ceiling to that. As like, it is still great. It is still a championship winning formula, but there are going to be times where they need Mike, where they need Aaron, where they need Christian to step up, and where they need Russell Westbrook to give them a little bit of breathing room on that two-man game. There's going to be times for that. And Mike is kind of the extra piece that can color outside the lines a little bit in those situations, can get off his shot no matter what. And if he is willing and able to do that on a consistent basis, then Denver's going to have a shot. Looking up some numbers prior to this show, Denver is 6th in half-court offense this year. They are 10th in defense. Overall, as a team, they are now, if I just go to the stats here, they're now 5th in offensive rating and 16th in defensive rating. Now, they're 8th in net rating. There is a distinct difference between the level of the great teams and them. Cleveland is plus 12.3 net rating on cleaning the glass. OKC's 11.9. Boston's 10.8. Memphis 10.2. Houston at 7th is plus 7.4. And Denver's down at plus 3.8 at 8th. Denver has been like the 8th to 12th best team for much of the season. They haven't hit their stride yet. There's a reason to believe that they can, but it's going to involve figuring out, okay, what happens when your main formula guys are not out there? What happens when you go to the non-Jokic minutes? What happens when you go to staggered minutes where Jokic is out there, but Murray or Porter is not? Denver's still got to figure those things out. Those questions are real. And it's one of the reasons, like in those minutes, why I think somebody like Levine might be helpful. I'm, of course, willing to be wrong about that. Of course. Like, I want to be wrong about that for everybody's sake, for Nuggets fans' sake, who are so desperate to want Michael Porter to be here through all of this because he's said all the right things. He's done all the right things. He has been a good soldier through all of this. Even when he's blamed, he is like in a good place mentally. He has fully accepted that role and responsibility. 3-man lineups on NBA.com. Number 1, OKC. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Cason Wallace. Number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams. Number 3, James Harden, Chris Dunn, Ivica Zubac. Number 4, and this is of lineups that have played at least 400 minutes together, Jokic, Murray, Porter at plus 12.6. Number 5, Jokic, Porter, Brown. Number 6, Jokic, Porter, Brown, or Murray, Porter, Brown. Number 7, Jokic, Murray, Brown. Denver's got 4 of the top 7 lineups in the NBA, top 7 3-man lineups in the NBA, because of the efforts that their starting lineup has had together with and without Aaron Gordon. And I tend to think that if the Nuggets can somehow, I don't know if they're going to be able to, but if the Nuggets can somehow find a way to make those non-Jokic minutes, to make those other lineups, whether it's Strother out there with Jokic and Russell Westbrook out there with Jokic, Peyton Watson getting into the game, if those guys can continue to grow throughout the season and find opportunities to be successful when the main formula isn't out there, then maybe Denver doesn't need a trade. Maybe they don't need anything crazy. Or maybe it's just a depth piece that they need. Somebody like an extra backup center or an extra defensive wing or something like that. Because they still have, debatably, it's probably not there right now, but debatably the best starting 5 in the NBA from a numbers perspective. And when you have that, you have the flexibility to be able to kind of pick and choose and say, okay, well, these guys are probably going to be out here for the playoffs. Let's see what else we can look at. So that is Denver's kind of place right now. They've played really well over the course of these past 2 weeks. And when I say really well, I actually don't mean that, because there have been a lot of hiccups, of course. There have been a lot of hiccups. But they're, 5-1 over the last 6 or something like that? Like, they have been successful in that regard. And generally speaking, I do think that they're kind of turning a little bit of a corner. Yeah, 5-1 in their last 6 games. That dates back to before the in-season tournament finished up. So that's over the course of 16 days. It's a long time. Denver hasn't played a lot of games in that much time. So they're kind of making up the difference here at the end of December and into January. This will test them. If they are able to turn things around, if they're able to be a little bit more consistent on this approach, the late December and January stretch, this is always going to be the opportunity to say, okay, are we doing this? Are we sticking with this? Or are we making a pivot? There is an opportunity for Denver to obviously save this. They can. There's no doubt. And nobody wants to break up the championship formula. Nobody wants to break up the championship core. That's not ever something that anybody wants to do. The difference was whether people thought it was actually necessary. And I'm just here. I'm trying to be honest about my job. I know that can rub some people the wrong way. And if I was a little bit too abrasive in my, not desire, but like the possibilities of Michael Porter being traded, then I apologize. I do. I am out here hoping that the Nuggets can find a way to win a championship. that they take advantage of this rare moment in Nuggets history where they have an opportunity to do so. To be clear, I do not think that they have been a top-tier team. They're not a top-tier contender in the West right now, but they can get there. And maybe they can get there internally. Maybe they can get there with development. Maybe they can get there with growth from what's happening on the inside. And it would be nice if they could get some consistent depth play every now and then, but that doesn't really have a question mark for the starters. If Murray's finally figured his stuff out, if Porter continues to stay consistent, if Aaron Gordon continues to shoot the ball reasonably well, if Christian Brown didn't have a good game this last one, but if he can get back on track, and if Jokic continues to play like the best player in the world, of course they have a chance. Of course they have an opportunity. I want now at this point, do I have to change my tune? Do I have to? Probably not. Like that would be people probably going to be saying, stay on that side, Ryan. Stay on that side. I don't know. Like I want what's best for the organization. I want what's best for the team. I want what's best for Jokic and everybody involved. And if this is what's best, I'll get in line. Absolutely. So I'm listening. I appreciate Mike for being a professional. I appreciate everybody for staying involved here, for supporting me. And I'm just glad that we've got some good folks. We've got some good folks involved, and that Michael Porter continues to show the professional that he is. All right, everybody, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll. Really appreciate everybody for stopping by. I saw the comments were bumping. Didn't pop up a lot of comments onto this podcast. I just kind of wanted to talk on this one. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Really appreciate the love and support. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on the way out. Happy holidays to everybody. It's Christmas Eve now. I'll not be doing a show tomorrow, obviously. I think I will probably do a show on Thursday following Denver's Christmas night game against these same Phoenix Suns. I expect Devin Booker and Jamal Murray to probably play in that one, so it'll have a slightly different feel. And hopefully everybody, you enjoy time with your families, you enjoy time with the people that you care about, and we get to talk some basketball after that. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll talk to you guys on Thursday.